We're back here on the program, The Platform, speaking today with Alexander Burrows, Stephen Douglas, and Dwaine Stevens. Gentlemen, you're talking about the Public Services Union, and you said that you've lost a considerable amount of members over the years. And is this all due to the leadership of the union, or what? Tell us.
Well, seriously, when you look at John's performance to compare to that of William McDonald's and Allington Miller, he fared the worst.
Why is that?
He is lax. He has a don't care behavior, and whatever he does, he think no one can check him, because of course, you know, he's big in stature, and that can have a lot to do with it. My concern is, though, that because he carries himself the way he does, it causes a lot of persons who want to come forth to pull back, because, you know, he's very loud voice, etc., etc. We don't like that. It is not good for the organization.
Customs and Immigration, for instance, who are a part of your union.
Yes.
And they are no longer in BPSU.
To a certain degree. We still have, Alexander Burrows Jr. is a custom officer. We still have a goodly numbers of customs and immigration officers that are part of BPSU.
How is that? How is that?
Because of our medical plan, some of them retain their membership. No, we still have a good bit of nurses too that are part of our organization, although they have their own organization.
So they are part of your union to benefit from the medical plan?
In most part, yes, and some of those persons would have been members of our organization for a goodly number of years, who would be seeking to get a pension from the union also.
I see.
But the benefit in that is that those persons left, especially customs and immigration, they left because of John Pinder. Yes. John negotiated an agreement. You remember some years ago, a compensation study was done for the public service. As far as I am aware, there had been no benefit disseminated among the public service as related to that compensation study. But if you look at our new agreement that he signed a couple of weeks ago on our behalf, it says that 2014, 2015 is a year that they're going to be reviewing pensions and salaries. If we had a compensation study done 5-6 years ago, why is it necessary now to do a review? Yes. All right? In this agreement that he signed, we are only getting an increase for 1 out of the 5 years. 1 out of the 5 years.
Between now
and 2018.
And
2017.
That's not 5 years.
No, 2000.
It was effect from 2013.
Yes,
it took effect from 2013 to 18.
Okay.
All right. So in
that period of time, you got one lump sum payment. Is that it?
The lump sum would be dispersed in 2 payments.
One now and
one we received 2 weeks ago, and one we would receive in 2016.
So if I'm at the lower rung, I would have gotten $400.
Yes, sir.
But that doesn't apply to your salary.
And then the next time I would get $400.
Yes. And let me
2017.
Yes.
But that doesn't apply to your salary.
It does not apply to my base salary.
No, not at all.
Not the first one.
Not the first one.
The second one.
No, not the second one isn't applied either. No lump sum payment is applied to your base salary.
Only the $1,200 would be
$1,200.
That's right.
And let me just say on that point, Mr. Jones, the last time civil servants would have received a raise and some lump sum would have been under the previous administration, Ingram administration, 2007-2008. If you look at the agreement, you would see that the next time we would get a raise would be that of 2017, the period 2016-2017, which we believe is, as you know, 2017 is an election year. 2 lump sums would be given as we already received one, and one will come during 2016. Now, if you look at the majority of civil servants, they're to the bottom tier, which is 400. Essentially, in 2007-2008, we got $800 lump sum and $1,200 added.
Added to the base.
To the base. Yes. So now we see Mr. Pinder wants to make people believe like you're getting plenty money. So it's that same $800 is broke up in 2 parts. In addition to that, 2007 to 2017 is essentially 10 years, Mr. Jones. And if you look at that and you do mathematics, you would realize that essentially, if you subdivide that, civil servants would get $10 per month. $10 per month. Now, if we look at the consumer price index in this country, in 2010, a household, a Bahamian household, would have purchased per week breadbasket items for $100. That same household, as of 14th of May 2014, pays $107.86. So if you take, and that's per week, if you take $7.86 away from $10 per month, you're in the negative.
Mr. Dwaine Stevens, I hear you, but the government of the Bahamas is hard pressed for money.
Yes, sir.
They got no money.
Well,
Let's be honest here now. Growing deficits,
yes.
400 million or so a year, borrowing money every month for payroll, have difficulty getting people to clean the verges because they simply do not have the money. The public service, some people say, is too large. And the government has to find a way to reduce the size of the public service so that you can get the salary increases that you want. You for that? Or are you all for that?
Let me first say, Mr.
You for that?
Jones, I agree with those comments.
You want to argue you for that?
Yeah, all of you.
Yeah,
You know,
but I agree with
you for the reduction of the
I wanna
size
answer
of the
that
public
first
service?
part first. And I agree with you that the government is hard pressed for monies. But, Mr. Jones, as we see now in our media, in our parliaments, the gaming bill is before us. It is projected, Mr. Jones, that some 400 million would be coming in short order.
And people ain't for that.
But it's projected.
I don't know if you for that, but the people not for
It's
that.
being regulated and its money is coming into the coffers.
Yes, okay.
Okay, it's projected that some 600 million can be derived from that.
No.
I mean,
No, not 600 million, but I beg the point.
okay, but monies are coming in. There are potentially revenues will be coming in, okay, and we are simply saying Mr. Pinder should not hasten to sign this agreement when the potential was there to get a little bit more. We feel that he hastened to sign this agreement to make himself look good for the elections. Had we wait, rather than being able to get $1.67, we could have perhaps got $3.
You know,
And this $1.67 is per week?
per week.
Yes, okay.
Before we go on, though, I
want you to answer that question.
I'm
Oh,
not
Mr.
for the
Burrows, you too.
Yes. I'm not for the downsizing of public service as per the lower ranks. But look at it. I'm a technical worker in the public service.
Okay.
All right? I'm basically a superintendent in the welding shop. Government outsources work to private enterprises every day, work that I can do for the government. You look at the vector control section of the Ministry of Environmental Health, Department of Environmental Health. Those guys, they get like probably $50-something a day. The guys who contract to do vector control, they get like $300 a night. If you look within the Ministry of Works, you said government is hard pressed for money. There are more consultants in the Ministry of Works than you can shake a stick at.
Yes.
Them consultants, they ain't working for free. All right, if government want to reduce the cost of the government, they would seek to use the human resources that is in the public service to effect change within the government. You can say that public servants is lazy as much as you want, but you look at it, a lot of them are persons who are sent here by their political leaders to get a job. All right, they didn't go to work, they go to get a job. So when they get a job and then you can get them work, we didn't come here for this. The man just sent us so we can make some money. Unless we change the way we think about the public service, we can continue to go down this road. I just heard a report on the radio, whether it's true or not. BAMSI, which was allocated, supposed to cost $20 million. On the radio this morning, I heard that BAMSI have already exceeded $50 million. Now, tell me that this is a hard-pressed government. That was on the radio. I'm telling you what the report that I heard on my way.
You didn't hear on Love 97, right?
No, not Love 97.
That's just irresponsible.
Well, but that's what I heard. If that is the case, then how could we be throwing away money and then say we ain't got it?
Better fiscal responsibility.
Better fiscal responsibility. But the public service has the resources as it relates to humans who can effect change and lower the cost for the government if the government only utilize those resources that they have.
And
all right, I want to get back to that, though.
To
Go
say,
ahead.
as it relates to the point that was raised, the government utilized its authority for expediency in doing a number of things when it comes to the public service. They don't like the idea, and previous governments did the same thing. They don't like the idea of having one going through the system and becoming a career civil servant. They now opted to hiring persons as a contract person having to sign between him or herself and the government or the ministry, okay? No middle ground, no other person to see if what is written makes sense or advantageous to the employee. We have persons in the public service working for the schools and who are being paid from the tuck shop. You know, the tuck shop don't make no money, then that person cannot be paid, okay? And we have them again from the local
School boards,
the local schools board, all this thing. And the government is doing that because there's a leeway where if they are not substantively appointed at any day, they can lose their job. Now, we find that to be very prevalent in our walkabouts, particularly in the school and some part of the hospitals, where we saw this kind of and local government, and right in the environmental health department. It's an abuse.
Yes,
It's an abuse.
Where you have temporary workers.
Yes, I mean it's overcrowding, and they cannot go to the bank to borrow any money because the bank want to know that if you have a tenure, they have no tenure in the system, so the bank not going to risk their funds with someone who don't have a tenure, and it is deliberate. And the Hammer team, you can be rest assured, we are going to form a task force in cooperation with the government or otherwise, and we are going to give the government a paper on that. And we expect within a reasonable time, all those persons who were hired for whatever favor or whatever it is, they ought to be regularized and become a part of the total system. And then let's put some systems in place along with the union so that we can control the employment in this country when it comes to the public service.
Well, why would you regularize people or want them to be regularized when the government cannot afford this, to make them permanent staff members? Because along with their permanence of employment, there are a number of things going along with them, a number of benefits going along with that. And the government tells you they can't afford to pay for these benefits. The government has difficulty now paying you more than $167, 167. Well, no, it's $167, $1.67 a week. That difficulty paying you that now, and you are suggesting that the temporary workers who the government smiled on and gave them an opportunity to make some money, all right, in tough economic times, you want to put the gun to the government head to make them permanent staff members when the government can afford them.
Yes, Mr. Jones,
so isn't that being unreasonable?
Mr. Jones,
They were in the system prior to whatever we are considering now tough times. We have persons in the system now for the past
19 years,
20 years.
Yes.
weekly
Temporary.
temporary.
And you said 20 years
20
ago
years.
they were hard times?
Mr.
No,
Jones,
no, it cannot
They
be.
were there for 20 years.
20
a lot of
years.
persons.
Well, you know,
20 plus.
if you were a temporary employee for 20 years, Mr. Burrows, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Douglas, then there's something wrong with you.
No,
So you see, if you are a competent person, if you are competent and you are performing optimally in the public service, ain't nobody gonna have you temporary for 20 years, man.
You're quite true.
Let's be reasonable.
You're quite true.
surprised.
You're quite true. But the level, and I'm going to use this word, and I'm going to use it very cautiously. The level of exploitation in the public service by the Bahamas government, if you were to go and canvass the government and its employees, you'll be very surprised. See, government.
You were saying the government is taking advantage of
behavior.
of
I mean,
yeah.
you know,
Exploit-
and the sad thing,
hundreds
the
of
sad thing
thousands
about
of
it, Mr.
people.
Jones,
Yeah,
the sad thing about it is our union, which is supposed to represent these people, is allowing it to happen.
That is quite true.
In a way, you tell me you got a union rep making a whole heap of money, and people are in your system. They come in. You got people month to month. They come in with expectations. They put them on month to month and say, well, within a year, our industrial agreement speaks to it. If you are month to month temporary for 12 months, on the 13th month, if you got no kind of information from the public service, then you are deemed to be permanent and pensionable. It don't happen. It don't happen. You got people been sitting down, and people are competent, Mr. Jones. You need to really go into the public service and meet with some of the persons, the education level, all right, social services department. We got some of the highest, most qualified civil service and social service department, and they're being exploited. Some of them are still weekly,
Yes.
and for years, with
Many
bachelor's degree.
Many years.
All right, it ain't like these are people who they pick up off the streets. Yeah, there are persons who they pick up off the streets and gave jobs to. All right, but it got to be some future in it. If you're going to spend 20 years in the system, it got to be something. When you retire, what do you get? A thank you note?
Yeah, you didn't. In all of that, you didn't fully answer my question on whether or not the public service should be downsized or right-sized.
Mr. Jones, let me answer it. And I'm sorry, Mr. President, but let me answer it. I think
Mr. President could answer
our
that
whole
too.
government
I'm
need to be
gonna answer
downsized because of the country.
No, I ain't talking about the government.
Well, a country
You
with
see,
350,000 people.
No, we're not dealing with the government. Fine. The people of the Bahamas, they would make that decision at election time.
No, well, I'm
Okay?
not being elected official when I say the government. No, I'm talking about the way we operate should be downsized because everything in our government is too bloated. And if you're talking about just attacking workers who only try to make a living for their families.
Salaries and personal emoluments in the public service accounts for far more than half of the national budget. More than half of the revenue of the government of the Bahamas, almost 3/4, I'm told. Almost 3/4 goes to salaries and personal emoluments. Okay? Now, the question still is, Mr. Burrows, should the public service be downsized?
No. We can right-size the public service, and we can start with having a dialogue with the government. Tell the government, the present and future government, that if there is a vacancy, particularly at the top when persons would have retired from the whatever service and they would have brought them back, why not promote those persons who are still waiting to be promoted in the system and forget about hiring friends and families and that kind of stuff after they would have served in the country or in the public service. And once that become a policy, give it 5-10 years, you'll be surprised to know how right-sizing the public service can become, and leave these poor people who just, as you say, trying to make a living. Okay, let them continue to make a living. Those big boys and big girls or big gals, and they can fend for themselves. Let us take care of our mothers, our single parent mothers we got in this country. They walk, I see them walking, they even can't afford to get a bus ticket or $1 to carry their children to school in the morning time. It was last year sometime, and this lady who was carrying her little daughter, and the child got knocked down, and the driver didn't even stop. I think we need to look at where we want this country to go, and we need to look at our single parent mothers. That's an idea we need to take up holistically with the government.
Let's talk broadly about the administration of the Public Services Union. Yeah, the Public Services Union collects a lot of dues, I believe.
$25 per member.
$25 a member per month.
Per month.
Okay. You have some buildings.
Dilapidated.
Dilapidated?
Dilapidated. Even the office.
They are one on East Street South?
East Street South has been in a dilapidated state now for some 8 years.
For 8 years?
Yes.
There's one on Wolf Road?
Wolf Road there's two on Wolf Road. There's one on Hebron Alley that houses the medical.
Right.
There is one that houses the BPSU administration right opposite John Shea.
Right.
That has an investment in the front of it, an investment in a gas station that is currently closed, has been closed for 8 weeks.
So you are accusing the union leadership, the present leadership of maladministration?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Very much so.
definitely.
Yes,
You,
yes.
you know, Mr.
Bad
Jones,
administration.
Yes, okay.
Paul.
We have essentially lost millions of dollars in potential revenue between East Street South and for the at Wolf Road, on Wolf Road, a mammoth portion of that building, the headquarters building, is vacant and is not being utilized.
Why?
Only Mr. Pinder can answer that. But let me say,
Mr. Pinder doesn't run the union by himself.
well, that's how he carries himself.
He runs it by himself?
Well, you
there
see him-
aren't executive officers?
Well, they have to be quiet. They
have to be quiet?
Yes, they
I'm
only can
sorry
speak
for
when
that,
he
but
tell them.
when he allows them
he allows them to speak. If you notice, every talk show he would go on, he's always by himself.
Yeah.
Anything to be said, he has to say. Even the Secretary General, whose primary responsibility is communication, really
running
has
the
something to say.
organization. He has nothing.
But let me just say, what one of the things we intend to do to bring revenue into our union with those same buildings, Mr. Jones. You said earlier the government is hard pressed for money, and we understand that. But one of the challenges the civil service have now is members of the Bahamas Public Service Union is working in very poor working conditions, and the government is moving to remedy that. And substantial sums of monies was allotted in the fiscal budget for rent. And we know for a fact the government is renting from politicians, it's renting from special interests. We see members of the gaming industry, they're renting buildings from. So our contention is simple, to ask the government to rent from the Bahamas Public Service Union those prime buildings in prime location on East Street South.
Rent from you in East Street South for what?
To house government offices.
offices.
They're here, there, and everywhere renting.
Once they're renovated, they could be used for anything.
They're renting from everyone. So
Yes.
we contend that they can rent from the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas in the Bahamas Public Services Union.
It's amazing, isn't it, that a union that is how many years old?
55 years.
55 years old
Uh,
finds itself in the situation that you are describing.
Mr.
And you claim, you people in the union, you are managing the public purse. You run
Yes.
government
Yes.
affairs.
Yes.
And you can't even run your own union.
But
No,
Mr.
wait. Hold on, sir. Hold on. You find it difficult to run 3 or 4 union properties, to make them profitable, to augment the income coming in from dues and so on. Okay? Now, I want to know from the Hammer team about a system that you propose for the better management of the union's affairs. Because saying that we can fix up the building is one thing, but what systemically, how are you going to improve the finances of the union?
You
speak up for a minute.
Well, as we indicated, there are currently three primary sources of revenue coming into the union. The primary source being membership, which is down. So one of the things we seek to do is make the union attractive to draw members. Many persons right now do not see the union as being attractive. And
Don't you have agency shop?
No, sir.
You don't have agency shop?
Some
segments of the service.
Some segments have.
So how is it
agency
that
shop.
you don't have a general agency shop in the public service?
If I may, as
I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah,
but
as a former vice president under John Pinder, this is one of the planks that
you a former vice president?
under John Pinder.
So you're responsible for some of the mass students.
No, this book that I'm holding, this is actually the Constitution of the Bahamas Public Service Union. And I was reminded on more than one occasion by Mr. Pinder what this says as it relates to the function of the vice president. It says that the vice president only function in the absence of the president and the executive vice president. And there was no time in my tenure but once that I remember John Pinder or the executive vice being away from this country. But even at that one time, I wasn't aware of it until I was about to return the next day. There's this whole
So you weren't consulted
Wasn't
on
consulted, wasn't informed.
major financial transactions?
Even the fact that the president and the executive vice would have been out of the country, I wasn't informed in that. You guys understand, Mr. Jones, for the past 12 years, this organization have been run a autocratic and a dictatorial manner. All right, one person's make decision in this organization. Why do you think that there's so many of his executive vice and vice president pulled out from him and tried to see to steer the organization in a different direction? That was my desire. One of the things that I want to allude to is what I heard Mr. Pinder said yesterday or sometime on a talk show, that he took the monies that he had to renovate these streets out to give soft loans to his members. For the past year and a half, if you go into the union, there's a sign that says no more loans. There's loans have been put on hold. All right? There was no money to give to persons as relates to giving him soft loans, but he took pride in the fact that his members have to come to him and beg him for $500. Now, if I'm leading this organization, I don't want my members have to come to me for $500, beg me for it. I want to put my members in a position where they're comfortable and satisfied with what they're making so that they can make a beneficial living. John is living good off of the union.
Don't you?
I just want to make this point.
Living good off the union?
He's living good.
You mean on a union salary?
On his presidential salary, he's living good, but his members are suffering. They got
What's
to
the
beg him.
presidential salary?
Presently, I think it's $6,700 $67,000 per annum. But with his perks, he goes up to $100,000 easy.
I
Right?
just want to say this, Mr. Jones. Looking at the organization, much to be desired.
I'm sure.
Right now, and the position that we are going to take is to want to be truthful to our own selves. That's important to me as the leader, okay? Yes, John did a lot of skullduggery. I'm not going to get into that, okay? The members will judge his performance
On Friday
of this week. I just want to say this, though. There is a soft loan fund that we have in the union where our members, if they fall in hard times, can go to the union and borrow up to some $500, okay? That fund was there for long before the present administration came to power. They abused that, and as a matter of fact, we have persons in the family island don't even know of it. Right in Grand Bahama, only a selective few know of this particular fund. Right here in Nassau, only a selective few know about it. But you know what happened now? Because around the school year, like now in September, person go there to borrow money to get uniform, etc., etc. Some are turning away saying none, and some would get. But the sign up now to say, and I'm quite sure they may have taken it down. It's still there, saying that no money in it. And you know, I concur. That's one point that they made that they say about the organization I agree with. We were privileged to check the books, the financial books of the union, and we were able to discover horrific situations. Why I say that?
You mean when you check the books?
Well,
2 weeks ago.
A week and a half ago.
Yeah,
a week and a half. 2 weeks ago. Roughly 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And what was discovered, it's unbelievable.
The union is in deficit?
Well, based on the last report, yes, we are. We are in poor shape, but I want to be specific about the situation with the loan, the soft loan. In checking the books, we came across some familiar names other than regular members who are enjoying this so-called soft loan.
So people are getting loans from the union who are not members?
Well, people are getting money, getting soft loan from the union who are qualified as executives.
Or the executives?
The executives. They are the ones who are utilizing this soft loan. You'll be surprised. One sitting officer who is offering himself in this same election on Friday owes the Bahamas Public Services Union some $55,000. 55,000. No. I know where you're coming from. $55,430 something and 1 cent. Okay, that's one officer. Another officer owed in excess of $18,000. The next officer owed in excess of $10,000 plus. One officer even got their stipend in advance of
this election?
of this election, which means they are so sure that they are going to win this election, so they pay themselves in advance up to maybe September, October, November. That's how blatant and disrespectful those persons who are offering themselves. It's a shame. It's an indictment.
That got to change.
But that is corruption.
All right.
It's an indictment, sir.
I mean, you didn't say that, but that has to be corruption.
Thank you.
And it's amazing that these things are allowed to happen.
But you know, Mr. Jones,
But I have to
you
take a break.
All right.
We have to take a break. We take this break here on our program. We'll come right back.